Welcome to the spectrum. By definition, a spectrum is a band of colors as seen in a rainbow, produced by the separation of the components of light by their different degrees of refraction according to wavelength. It's also used to classify something or suggest that it can be classified in terms of its position on a scale between two extreme or opposite points. In short, a spectrum is a culmination of any combination of possibilities that can occur between 0 and whatever its mathematical upper end might be. We won't get into sub-zeros today, but we will another time. This series is about expanding our perception and enabling ourselves to understand that everything we've been raised to believe is only binary without exception isn't. Except for computer code, that is. Except that that isn't only binary either. For those who don't know, the computer language is made up of bits, which are single digits that are either 1 or 0. Bits make bytes, which are 8 digits in combinations of 1 or 0, every variation of which comprises perhaps a letter or a single numeric digit. Yet when strung together can create words, phrases, and very complex instructions, just like whatever language we learn as children. That is the basis of a computer's language. The only real binary that we encounter on a daily basis is the on-off switch, at least for practical purposes anyway. Everything else exists on a spectrum filled with variation. For example, humans. We are, on average, a bilaterally symmetrical species, as are most species on this planet. An arm with hands and fingers on each side, an eye on each side, an ear on each side, a nostril on each side, a leg with a knee, ankle, foot, and toes on each side. There's a breast on each side for women, and actually for men too, an ovary on each side. For men, there's a scrotum on each side. This is the way the vast majority of beings here are genetically programmed for form and being born. But every now and again, someone winds up with 6 toes or fingers instead of 5. Another is born without an arm, or with a truncated or unfinished limb, or even a vestigial tail. The majority or average person is born with one set of genital expressions, which, by the way, have only been defined by humans. Usually, one set of genitals are suited to receiving sperm in such a way that an egg, which already resides in the receptacle, may be fertilized and is possibly gestated until an offspring with the required organs and function of such organs can sustain its own life independently from its host. The other set of genitals provides the second half of the equation in the form of its genetic or chromosomal expression, which ideally, for the ultimate benefit of the offspring, should come from a source with a very different genetic history to ensure the ultimate survivability of the offspring in the face of natural challenges such as disease resistance, overall hardiness, adaptability, and creativity in general. After all, without the capacity for creativity, we never would have stuck a stick into a termite mound to get at the bugs and the larvae for their protein. We never would have learned how to smash open a bone to get at the marrow that provided such nourishment that enabled us to use more of our energy for thinking and more creativity to learn to create spears and spear points, atlatls, bows, arrows, catapults, aqueducts, arches, and their keystones. Hopefully you get the point. But a whole lot of things have to go right for a fertilized egg to become an embryo, and then to become a fully formed human baby. When I say fully formed, I'm not just talking about that external bilateral symmetry. I'm talking about the development of a functional notochord, organogenesis, as in liver, lungs, 4-chamber heart with valves that open and close properly, or properly enough to be corrected by surgery once birth has occurred, a brain, and I'm not being glib. I'm talking about anencephaly, which is defined by the CDC as a baby born with an underdeveloped brain and an incomplete skull. Anencephaly is a defect in the formation of a baby's neural tube during development. A baby born with anencephaly might be stillborn or survive only a few hours to a few days after birth. The main symptom is unconsciousness. There is no cure for anencephaly. Treatment aims at making the baby as comfortable as possible until it dies on its own. Now think about this. The NIH estimates that approximately 40 to 60% of fertilized eggs are lost between fertilization and birth. That's an average, or the bell part of the bell curve. Again, taking the idea of a spectrum into consideration, there are outliers on either side. Again, think of the anencephalic embryo that actually grows to full term but cannot survive without its literal lifeline to another organism, or the woman who miscarries in the first few weeks or months post-fertilization, no matter how much she may want the developing offspring. Now let's carry this bell curve into the people who do survive gestation and early life and all of the hurdles that get thrown at us in order to become functioning adults in society. Think about the people you know. Many have similar eye color or hair color or body builds or intellect, but how? Eye and hair color and even body habitus or build can be easily explained by the genetic pool available to their parents' parents, and on, backward to the beginning of Homo sapien. Not talking about recessive genes here, just dominant expression. But let's talk about invisible development factors like the availability of abundant foods with a wide variety of nutritional components that may help one offspring to develop a stronger immune system that then allows them to go through life without so much as a single allergy or anything more than the occasional sniffle. And on the other end of the spectrum, how about the overactive one, which results later in autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, not to mention the horrible host of other autoimmune diseases out there. Some people have a natural proficiency with math, science, technology, and engineering, or the STEMs, while others have to struggle, sweat, and swear their way through the learning process. Many fail. Their brains just aren't made for those subjects, but maybe they're musically gifted. Maybe they're natural-born nurturers who find wonderful fulfillment in providing care for others. Maybe they have a fantastic sense of direction and become navigators. These are all points on a spectrum. These are not binary qualities. A person who couldn't even identify a calculus equation can most likely still add 2 plus 2 to come up with 4. Conversely, a quantum physicist may not be able to sing a note, but may be decent or even exceptional pianist. The development of the human organism during its gestation and the expression of all these factors as it matures post-womb are dependent on an infinite number of variables, resulting in a different result for every single person, even identical twins. Just because your fingerprints are identical doesn't mean your thought processes and outward expressions of self are going to be. There's an amazing series called 9 Months That Made You that took a look into so many of these factors. It is mind-blowing. I strongly suggest that if you genuinely want to understand more about the human condition and how it becomes what it is for any individual, that you check it out. I'm talking about the original series. I can't speak to the follow-ups as I have not seen them yet, but I can speak about the first series. So please, if you find any of this interesting at all, please check it out. The reason that I'm doing this podcast, and whichever ones might follow, is that there's a virulent contagion in the form of hatred, lies, bigotry, and encouraged ignorance among the human population right now. My aim is to use my decades in the healthcare to share with those who want to help combat this disease that threatens the lives of the vast majority of humans that are already here and existing, just because they look different, speak a different language, have a different belief system, because they love differently or wish to exist as their inner understanding of themselves guides them to allow to do so, and to stop the hatred. This short series of podcasts was motivated by a particular being that sits in our Congress who believes that humanity is a binary species, so much so that this being put up a sign actually saying so. What this being apparently doesn't understand is that even the expression of masculinity and femininity occurs on a spectrum. Depending on the levels of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, as well as a host of other hormones, when those hormones are released and in what measures. Of course, this makes it a very nuanced subject, and the being in question may not be aware of this, and so is spreading incorrect information. My aim is to correct that information to all those who want facts rather than convenient and generalized fictions. If you want fiction, the books that are listed on the screen as we go through this podcast are all available for free on Kindle. For some reason, I can't get active links on my YouTube channel yet, and I promise you these would be among the banned. Anyway, if you found any of this interesting, if you learned something, please like, share, and subscribe. Please help get the word out so we can share knowledge among those who desire it. This is the wolf I'm feeding today. I'm living in hope, and I know I'm in good company, and so are you. Until next time, stay well and keep hoping.